Good afternoon, Lions Nation. Let's get straight to it. What happened in Kansas City left a lot of Lions fans frustrated, and for good reason. The late flag against Jared Goff wasn't just questionable, it was downright against the rules. A full minute and 17 seconds after the play had ended, the flag came in, and as confirmed by Dan Campbell himself, it came from New York. That's not how the NFL is supposed to work. When an officiating decision gets made off-site like that, especially long after the whistle, it shakes the very integrity of the game. Campbell didn't hide it. He said what every Detroit fan was thinking. That kind of interference ruins the reputation of the league. You can't have a fair game when the control isn't even on the field. And really, how many times have we been here before? It feels like every Lions fan can list off the games where officiating turned into heartbreak. The infamous flag pickup with Brandon Pettigrew, the no call against Atlanta, the mess with Calvin Johnson. It's been a long list of moments that still sting. It's why the motto, "Never leave it to the refs," hits so deep in Detroit. Against a team like Kansas City, you've got to dominate so clearly that even New York can't take it from you. That's the kind of team Dan Campbell's trying to build, one that doesn't let games come down to human error. Now let's shift to what's really been shaking up Allen Park, the Brian Branch situation. The young safety, one of the brightest sparks of this defense, got himself into serious trouble after punching Juju Smith-Schuster. His appeal to lift the suspension was denied, meaning he'll be out on Monday night. It's frustrating, no doubt, because Branch has been one of the team's most exciting defensive players since day one. But this wasn't a mistake the league could overlook. And honestly, Branch knew what was coming. Campbell's been clear that accountability is part of this culture, and if there's any silver lining, it's that this could serve as a real turning point for Branch. A humbling moment. We've seen it before. Jameson Williams went through something similar, came back sharper, more disciplined, more focused. Branch has that same fire, that same potential to learn, reset, and come back better. Still, his absence hurts, especially with Kirby Joseph's status uncertain. The Lions have already made some moves, signing a couple of depth players to shore up the secondary. But that unit, once again, finds itself in survival mode just when things were starting to click. On the other side of the field, Tampa Bay isn't walking into this one healthy either. Both teams are banged up, which is why Detroit's still sitting as a 5.5-point favorite. And here's the thing, this team isn't falling apart, it's adapting. That's the biggest difference from past seasons. Even with adversity, Campbell's group stays grounded. He told the media he wants to get David Montgomery more involved this week.
That Kansas City game wasn't his style of football. He barely saw the ball, and that's not something the Lions want to repeat. Montgomery's a bruiser, the kind of back who wears down defenses and sets the tone for the offense. Sure, Jahmyr Gibbs brings that lightning burst, that big play potential, but sometimes you need the thunder. Campbell knows when Montgomery gets into rhythm, the offense follows. Every fan watching that Chiefs game could feel it. There were moments screaming for number 5 to just pound the rock. But football's about adjustments, and the Lions are figuring it out. They've already shown they can win with either back leading the charge. Some games, Gibbs will shine, others, Montgomery will dominate. What matters most is balance, and trust that whoever's hot stays in. The same goes for the passing game. Fans keep calling for more Jameson Williams targets, but when this offense is putting up points, it's impossible to feed everyone. That's what makes this Lions unit special. It's loaded. A deep, explosive offense that can hurt you in so many ways that sometimes even the stars don't get their full share. And that's okay. Depth is what separates playoff teams from championship ones. And speaking of depth, let's talk about that front seven. When you look at the Lions' current pass rush, it's already performing at a high level. Aiden Hutchinson continues to be a relentless force. Alan McNeil is set to return Monday night, and guys like Tariq Williams and DJ Reader have stepped up. But imagine taking that already strong line and adding one more impact player. PFF listed 7 trade targets for Detroit. Names like Trey Hendrickson, Rasul Douglas, Reek Woolen, Alontae Taylor, and even Kayvon Thibodeau. It's a wish list that could shift the power balance completely. Now, realistically, Hendrickson's probably a long shot. He's expensive, and San Francisco's already circling him after losing Bosa and Warner. Detroit's cap situation doesn't make that kind of move easy, especially for what might just be a short rental. But Rasul Douglas, that's interesting. Even more so before the Lions signed Kyle Fuller. That move, by the way, was smart business. Fuller's not just a stopgap. He's a quality veteran who can steady things in the short term and provide valuable depth when everyone's healthy again. That's exactly the kind of smart, sustainable roster building this front office has built its reputation on. They're not going to sell out future draft picks for a quick fix when reinforcements are already on the way after the bye week. By then, the secondary could look entirely different, healthier, deeper, more complete. But still, the question remains, should Detroit make one more aggressive move before the trade deadline to really push for the Super Bowl window that's opening right now? Because when you really think about it, this team isn't just playing to make the playoffs anymore. The Lions are playing for something bigger. For years, Detroit was the team rebuilding, learning, fighting to stay relevant. But now, they're a contender. You can feel it in every snap, every drive, every Dan Campbell press conference. The message has shifted from let's compete to let's win. And that's exactly why conversations about trades, roster depth, and discipline matter more than ever. Adding another pass rusher like Arden Key or Jalen Phillips might not seem necessary when Hutchinson's already wreaking havoc, but imagine pairing that kind of talent together down the stretch. We're talking about a defensive line that could collapse pockets before quarterbacks even finish their dropbacks. It's not about desperation. It's about domination. Campbell and Brad Holmes have both said it. Championships are built in the trenches. The offensive line is already one of the best in football, tough, cohesive, and disciplined. Building the defensive line to match that same level could be what finally takes Detroit from dangerous to unbeatable. And look, Holmes has done this the right way. No panic trades. No short-term gambles. Every move has been calculated, like picking up Kyle Fuller instead of overpaying for someone else. Fuller might not be flashy, but he brings something this defense needs right now: stability. He's experienced, smart, and reliable in coverage. Plus, when players like Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph return, this secondary suddenly looks deep instead of desperate. That's how you build a team that survives the grind of a long season. You plan ahead instead of reacting out of fear. Still, that doesn't stop fans from dreaming. Imagine a player like Kayvon Thibodeau in Honolulu Blue lining up next to Hutchinson. You'd have two young, explosive pass rushers who could terrorize any quarterback in the league. It's the kind of fantasy that makes you wonder, what would it cost? And is it worth it? Maybe it's a high draft pick. Maybe it's cap space. But then you look around the NFC, and you see how close Detroit really is. San Francisco's banged up. Philadelphia looks beatable. There's no clear juggernaut. The window's open, right now, today. So why not push? But that's the balance Holmes faces. Make one bold move to chase greatness, or trust the foundation already in place. This team has already proven it can hang with anyone, even when key pieces are missing. They've been tested, bruised, and underestimated, and yet, they keep standing tall. That resilience, that belief, that's what defines this version of the Lions. And you can see it spreading, not just in the locker room, but across the entire city. Allen Park isn't just another practice facility anymore. It's the heart of something special. You can sense it from the players, the coaches, even the fans in the stands. Every game feels like it matters more than the last, and not because of desperation, but because of belief. This fan base has waited decades to feel this confident, to know that no matter who's injured, no matter what the refs do, this team won't back down. That's what Dan Campbell has built. It's not just about toughness, it's about identity. Still, to reach the next level, discipline has to be the backbone. That's why the Brian Branch situation can't happen again. The Lions have worked too hard to build this culture to see it cracked by one player's mistake. And the truth is, Branch is too talented to let something like this define him. His energy, his instincts, those are rare. When he returns, expect him to come back with a chip on his shoulder and something to prove. Because if there's one thing this locker room doesn't tolerate, it's wasted potential. Meanwhile, the offense looks primed to explode again. With Montgomery likely to get more carries, the run game could set the tone early. Gibbs remains that electric spark waiting to break loose at any moment. Jared Goff's been steady, efficient, and most importantly, unshaken by the chaos around him. And the offensive line, even through injuries, continues to give him the time to deliver. Add in Amon-Ra St. Brown's consistency and Sam Laporta's breakout performances, and it's clear this offense can carry its weight. The real question isn't whether Detroit has the talent. It's whether they can stay healthy and keep that killer mentality alive through the grind. Because make no mistake, the league's watching. The Lions aren't the underdog anymore. They're the hunted. Teams are game planning specifically to expose their weaknesses. That's why every signing, every rotation, and every piece of discipline matters more now than ever. If Detroit can stay composed, stay focused, and get players like Branch, Joseph, and McNeil back at full strength, there's no reason they can't make a legitimate run. The path to the Super Bowl isn't a dream anymore, it's a possibility. And with Campbell leading this group, it feels like it's only a matter of time before that breakthrough finally comes. So here's the question that every fan needs to think about. If you were Brad Holmes, would you make a big trade right now to push this roster over the top? Or would you trust the core, let them heal, and bet on the chemistry that's already built? Drop your thoughts below. I want to hear what the One Pride community thinks. And if you're enjoying these deep dives into everything Detroit Lions, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned, because there's plenty more coming your way. The road to the Super Bowl might just be getting started, and you won't want to miss what's next. And that's the thing about this team, it feels like Detroit is standing on the edge of something we haven't seen in decades. Every week brings a new test, a new storyline, a new moment that shows just how different this version of the Lions really is. You can sense it in the way they respond after setbacks. The loss to Kansas City didn't fracture this team, it fueled them. The frustration over officiating didn't lead to excuses, it lit a fire. Even Branch's suspension, as disappointing as it is, has turned into another opportunity for this locker room to show how deep, united, and focused they are. That's what great teams do. They take chaos and turn it into energy. And under Dan Campbell, this group has learned exactly how to channel that. There's no panic, no pointing fingers, just accountability and belief. When you listen to Campbell talk, you can feel how much he trusts these guys. He knows the kind of resilience that's been built here. It's not the same old Detroit anymore. This team doesn't collapse under pressure, it feeds off it. And that's what makes the next stretch of games so important. Getting through this injury wave and staying in the win column means everything. Because once that bye week hits and players start coming back, Kirby Joseph, Alan McNeil, and eventually Brian Branch, this roster could look terrifying again. That defense, when healthy, can match up with anyone in the league. You've got Hutchinson creating nightmares off the edge, McNeil clogging up the middle, and a secondary that, once back to full strength, can lock down even the best passing attacks. Then there's the offense, a unit that can adapt to any style of game. Need to grind out a win on the ground? Hand it to Montgomery 25 times and let him wear the defense down. Need